Hi all, this is Simona Rich, and this is a video about the 8th house of astrology and the planets located in it. Whilst the 2nd house of astrology is the house of personal resources, its polar opposite, the 8th house, is the house of joint resources. It's about marriage and corporate resources, and in general deals with inherited money and property. It also rules the resources of other people in the native's chart. It indicates whether the person is driven by fear or any other emotion. It shows the quality of the mind that is always at the background, though the person might not pay conscious attention to that quality. For example, the presence of Saturn in this mysterious house may make the person feel anxious at the back of his mind, though he may not know why, or may not even acknowledge that that feeling is always there. This house is ruled by Scorpio and rules the generative organs of the human body. Since this house is ruled by Scorpio, it's also about mysticism, death, and regeneration. It's one of the mystical houses of astrology. It deals with receiving messages from the spirit realm and other occult subjects. It also indicates whether you will have a long life or what kind of death you're likely to die. It deals with mysterious energies, the dissolution of material bodies, and is also concerned with higher mathematics and atomic physics. It deals with personal and group spiritual experiences. Pluto in the 8th house. You might be interested in spiritual topics such as reincarnation, other Eastern spiritual branches, or Western occult tradition. You will naturally or easily understand subjects dealing with the investigation of subtle energy or physical matter. If Pluto is well aspected, you will be spiritually strong, sometimes highly intuitive. You will be determined to accomplish what you want despite of the obstacles. You will not have time for things that do not matter. Since this is the house of death and regeneration, the planet Pluto, having the same qualities as it's naturally placed in this house, may make you go through dangerous situations and you will be a changed person afterwards. Life crises are harsh gifts from Pluto, which greatly enrich you if you learn from them. Wherever Pluto is located, that's the area through which you evolve. So you evolve through spirituality, sexual experiences, and learning to deal with joint finances. With a strong Pluto, you will be able to successfully go through even the most challenging experiences. You tend to get to the basics of things. You're not one of those individuals who is happy with receiving only shallow information about the subject of interest. Sometimes you engage in certain activities secretly or not show what you're up to until it's accomplished or is at its final stages. You will be determined to accomplish anything that you desire, no matter what obstacles are on your way. You will also not likely to deal with frivolous matters. You will not waste your time on them. However, if Pluto is afflicted, there will be difficulty in dealing with other people's money, taxes, insurance, and similar matters. The native may also employ occult forces for evil if Pluto has harsh aspects with other planets. The native is likely to have a high sex drive to the point where this could become an obsession. If Pluto is afflicted, he might be violent in sex and will enjoy it. In general, his sexual taste could be very dark, but of course this would remain a secret. With this placement, the spouse of the native might be obsessed about money, and the native might use his spouse's money. Sometimes he may even sell sex for money, or he might be involved in illegal activities concerning money or other illegal things, such as using violence to get debts repaid. These people are secretive and are usually energy vampires. They might have many phobias and might be into dark arts. They are insightful about people and are capable of uncovering their secrets. Therefore, work involving such research skills would suit them. If Pluto is ill aspected, great care must be taken with money because the native may lose or get into debt. So loans must definitely be avoided with such a placement. Wherever the planet Pluto is placed, it creates hunger in that area. And since this house is about other people's money and sex, the native might feel obsessed about those subjects. Neptune in the 8th house. The individual will be interested in psychic experiences and in establishing contact with the non-physical realm. When it comes to joint resources, taxes, insurance, and in general other people's money, there might be some deception or lack of clarity about them. A well-aspected Neptune here may make the subject clairvoyant. An afflicted Neptune may tempt an individual to use spiritual forces selfishly. Also, you have to be careful with handling money if Neptune is afflicted, because other people may deceive you. The native may try to avoid paying taxes or might use deceptive techniques for other financial matters. The native may be able to feel the spiritual realm, but might interpret those forces and experiences incorrectly. A badly aspected Neptune can create individuals who believe in any spiritual pieces of information that they hear, falling prey to fake gurus and other spiritual deceivers. Since the 8th house is an open door to other realms, having Neptune placed here might make the native vulnerable to be spiritually vampirized. The native might be easily hypnotized, and he might be easily spiritually influenced in other ways. With this placement, the native is capable of completely uniting with his or her other half on all levels, but especially on a spiritual level. In fact, sometimes a deeply spiritual and platonic love is possible with such a placement. Sometimes the native will willingly allow himself to be used and abused in relationships whilst giving unconditional love in return. This placement may plunge the native's death into mystery. For example, a death cause could be never found out, or the disease that causes death might be of a mysterious origin. Water as a cause of death would also be possible, as well as poisoning. Alcohol or drug overdose might be death cause too. With this placement, it's important to protect your energy and not just be open to anything and anyone, as this placement puts you at risk of being abused energy-wise and spiritually. You may receive precognitive dreams, and you might also be able to astrally project. You will be interested in life and death topics. Uranus in the 8th house. The native will be interested in the occult, science fields, and physics. He may be able to understand these subjects deeply. Since Uranus is the planet of unpredictability, being placed here, it can either bring good or ill luck in terms of joint or other people's finances, like inheritances, taxes, and insurance. It tells of an unexpected and sudden death, and the native may sense his last hour. This placement teaches that change is the only predictable thing in the world. So if the native learns this lesson by going through many unexpected events, he will feel fulfilled. There might be some unusual sexual habits or willingness to experiment with such a placement of Uranus, it being the planet of unconventionality. The native spouse may earn money in some unusual way. This placement can bring unusual and unexplainable spiritual experiences. If Uranus is well aspected, the native will receive financial support unexpectedly. Sometimes he might gain and then lose a large amount of money. If Uranus is ill aspected, you should be careful with money and you should never borrow. But even if you lose it all, you might quickly and completely unexpectedly gain it all back. Uranus is a planet influencing the native to break barriers and to be free. In this house, the native may break sexual or spiritual taboos. He might be highly intuitive and spiritually gifted, like being able to project his double or to astrally project. The individual might not want to pay taxes, or he might be against financial institutions or the way that finances work. His work might be online, and getting paid online might be his only or the main source of income. Saturn in the 8th house. It shows that dealing with joint finances, other people's resources, taxes, and insurance will involve responsibilities, sometimes heavy ones. A lot of responsibility might have been entrusted to the native by others. If Saturn is afflicted, there might be burdens or obstacles about the just mentioned subjects. The native might not receive what other people gave him through inheritance, for example. He might also be heavily taxed. It shows that the cause of death might be a long illness, or it could be that the person will simply die of old age. The individual, if spiritually undeveloped, may fear death. Dreams may be of dark nature, and the native might have frightening spiritual experiences. The spouse might lack money, and the native may financially lose out through marriage. There might be insufficient means to finance some project of his desire. But if Saturn is well aspected, money can be made through wisely, thoroughly, and systematically managing other people's resources. The native will be spiritually insightful if Saturn is well aspected by Neptune, Pluto, or Uranus. Saturn in this placement indicates long life. Wealth will come later in life through much hard work. You might be a loner, fearing your emotions getting hurt. You might be sexually restricted, and it might be difficult for you to fully open up to your partner. You fear uniting fully with another person, not only because of sexual or emotional restrictions, but also because you fear losing your individuality. In general, it's the emotion of fear in your subconscious that drives you. This emotion cuts you off from other individuals. You're likely to be practicing detachment. You might be picky when it comes to long-term partners and to make sure that the right one is selected. Once the partner is found, the relationship should be steady. With this placement, help is not likely to come from other people, especially financial one, so you will have to get out of trouble yourself, but in general you're not likely to ask others for help anyway. This placement can give inheritances such as a house with debts or any other resources to which you are likely to lose money, so it will look like gain only at the beginning. Or it could be that you may spend a lot of money on legal matters to finally get your inheritance. A well-aspected Saturn shows that the native will be reliable and thorough with other people's finances, so work in banks or other financial institutions is suitable. It's also good to work in human resources, as you will be economical and you will know how to efficiently use such resources, knowing who's efficient and who simply wastes companies' funds. Jupiter in the 8th house. It shows luck in inheritance, other people's money, taxes, and insurance. The native may be interested in careers involving financial matters like corporate fundraising and tax accounting, or occupations to do with death like providing funeral services. He might be spiritually inclined, but usually along the traditional religious lines. His thoughts on spiritual subjects will be deep, and he will be a lifelong student of religion and spirituality. Great inheritances will easily come to the native if there are no harsh Jupiter aspects. The native will find it easy to borrow money from individuals and institutions. If Jupiter is afflicted, the native is likely to quickly use up whatever comes to him from other people, or he would only receive finances from others after a long time or after some strife. The native is likely to live a long life and will die peacefully. He will benefit from joint finances and other matters ruled by this house, like other people's money and inheritances. He will increase his wealth through joint resources. The individual will be protected in all the 8th house activities. Also, if the native decides to share his own resources with others, he will only gain more. This placement will also make the native think a great deal about sex, and this may turn into an obsession if he is not careful. This placement also indicates a wealthy and good husband or wife. There will be spiritual experiences and sexual unions. The native is able to completely merge with his other half. Since Jupiter is the planet of expansion, its location in the house of sex, death, and rebirth may make the native spend a lot of time on sexual activities to the point that sex becomes mindless, so this should be guarded against. This placement makes one protected from psychic attacks and other negative spiritual experiences. It gives high intuition and an easy understanding of spiritual topics. The native will be interested in life after death topics and similar ones. Mars in the 8th house. Mars in the 8th house manifests through emotional intensity. The native has strong desires and uses emotional intensity to achieve them. He expends a lot of energy in achieving goals and doesn't give up until he has what he wants. The native is extremely passionate and might be interested in mystical sex. There might be interest in spiritual and occult subjects in general. There might also be a near-death experience which will leave the person transformed, usually for the better and in a spiritual way. He will expend a lot of energy in sexual activities. He will use sex as a way to release energy and to recharge at the same time. He might be violent in sexual activities. He will break sexual taboos. If Mars is afflicted by Saturn or Pluto, the native might suffer sexual or other physical abuse. The person might have lived in a place where war was going on. His death might be sudden. It might be violent if Mars is afflicted. A heavily afflicted Mars may indicate that the person could be a criminal. If Mars has a negative aspect to Mercury, it means that the person may be a thief. If Mars is afflicted, there might be disagreements about other people's resources, inheritances, taxes, or insurance. The native might get such resources after much quarreling. He will be actively involved in managing joint finances. His spouse might be impulsive in spending money and might lose a lot of it. This placement warns against taking out loans, as it's likely that they won't be paid back. He might be very jealous and possessive in a relationship. He may do everything he can to get the person that he likes. He may treat another person as a possession. If things don't go well, he may even use violence, like if a person he loves wants to leave the relationship. The native might be involved in something secret, either good or evil. He will be interested in the occult, but might be too impulsive about trying out occult methods without doing enough research, and this may harm him. Sun in the 8th house. The native may probe deep into the occult subjects that others are afraid to touch. He is interested in what happens after death. He feels it's his duty to research such important subjects and doesn't relax until he finds out the depths of occult knowledge. After he finds it out, he is reborn. He is not afraid of going through real spiritual experiences, not New Age ones, such as personality disintegration, so that you're put together the right way. If the native isn't evolved, however, this development doesn't apply, and the person will simply be interested in inheritances, insurance, taxes, and similar subjects. He might be in some financial occupation. This placement means that the person's work or personality will be known after his death. This is a classic placement of artists and writers whose work becomes more known after they are no more on this earth. Things that other people consider mysterious are easily understood and sometimes intuitively known by the native. It's the placement that gives people openness towards occult phenomena such as apparition manifestation. The native isn't afraid of spiritual things that others would be absolutely frightened of, such as visiting haunted places, for example. In fact, such occult experiences fascinate them and they research them. Their will is very strong and they achieve what they set their minds to. They always want to go deeper into life in general, as opposed to the shallow existence that the masses accept. They want to know how life works, what its spiritual mechanism is. He might have many extreme spiritual experiences which transform him forever. Because of the knowledge that they hold, they have a mystical aura about them, and some people feel afraid of them. The native will live many lives in one, being almost a totally different person in different periods of this one lifetime. This serves to dissolve his ego. Death might be dramatic, or in some way, or it might be in public. Another cause of death could be sunstroke or death by fire if the sun is afflicted. A father might leave a large inheritance after his death. If not a father, then some father figure. The native is good at managing other people's resources. The father may die early or leave home when the native is a teenager or a child. If the son isn't afflicted, borrowing money from individuals or institutions is going to be easy. The natives are sexually attractive and have an aura of mystery and magnetism about them. They might pay a great deal to the topics of sexuality. Venus in the 8th house. This isn't an ideal place for the planet Venus, though this beneficial planet gives some gifts through this house also. You will financially benefit through marriage or collaboration with others and managing their resources. You're likely to receive an inheritance unless Venus is afflicted. Also, you might be lucky in taxes, insurance, and matters to do with the law. With an afflicted Venus, it's also possible that the person is at risk of degenerating into animal passions. Sometimes the person marries so that he could gain financially. He may be too possessive and jealous. Such a placement may make the person quite emotional, and for him sex is much more than a physical union, but can be seen as something artistic. A spouse is likely to be wealthy and will improve the financial situation and public standing of the native. In fact, if Venus is not afflicted, the native might gain great wealth in joint finances or through other people's resources. This planet gives peaceful and even pleasant death in a good environment, like being surrounded by loved ones or in a beautiful place. But if Venus is afflicted, the native might experience disappointments in love, such as a loved one leaving him or her or dying. The native might be attracted to partners who have darkness about them. They would be attracted to the mysterious and dark energy that those individuals have. Very sexual, mysterious, or wealthy individuals will also be the type that these natives would get into a relationship with. Other people find the native sexually attractive without being able to point out the reason why. There is a danger of using people by the native, so he should take care not to abuse this influence that he has over others. The native might break sexual taboos and might be interested in deep occult subjects others fear to touch. Mercury in the 8th house. The person may choose to delve deeply into occult subjects and may want even to write about them. He has the ability to understand mysteries and to uncover secrets. He's able to see separate pieces of information and put them into an understandable structure to really understand the truth of subjects others don't understand or think too complicated or mysterious. They are great at seeing inconsistencies, and therefore it's very hard to lie to them. This is very powerful placement to manifest things through words, but it's a double-edged sword because negative words may be manifested too in the life of the native. Also, the native speech greatly affects others, so he must take care in what words he uses. He should try not to criticize others and use soft, pleasant words, because words used in order to disturb or shock would do more harm to others than the native may realize. This is important also for the reason that if you send what you send through the occult doors of the 8th house will always be brought back to you. When the native talks, it feels like his speech is authoritative, even though he might not be fully knowledgeable about the subject, so he easily makes himself seen as an authority figure. There's a temptation to use this great gift for the manipulation of the public. His morals, especially dealing with other people's resources, might not be strict. He might manipulate business outcomes to his own advantage. He might also be interested in working in the area of taxes, insurance, or managing other people's resources. He will know how to manage joint resources in marriage. He will usually not share with the public what's important to him and the goals he's currently striving for. This is very powerful because no negative thought of others can influence or destroy his to-be-manifested thoughts. He may even use words to mislead so that his true plans or intentions are not known by others. He might be perceived as secretive by others. The native researches human behavior and is able to understand motivations of people he comes into contact with. When it comes to sex, such natives will seek out partners with whom they're able to communicate well, because for them, a sexual activity won't be enjoyable if they don't fully understand the partner. They might even use words to influence their partners to act in a certain way. Also, with this placement, the native is likely not to trust anyone until they are proven to be reliable. So the native might even do some checks to make sure someone is telling the truth. He's likely to come across secret information, like some secret occult books, or information not related to spirituality, like some important hidden documents. With such a placement, the native might die as a result of some psychological problem, or it could be problems with respiratory organs that may cause his death if Mercury is afflicted. He might find it difficult to forgive and forget, especially if the planet is afflicted. He might inherit money or property from relatives or siblings. And finally, Moon in the 8th house. The native is emotional and is able to feel the non-physical realm. He is attached to his family, and if some member dies, he may use the help of a psychic to contact the dead. He might take interest in managing joint finances, taxes, or insurance. He may inherit property or money from family, especially from the mother's side. There might be fluctuations in joint finances. If he is not careful, the native may degenerate into engaging in animalistic passions. He will want to engage in sex frequently, but not into a meaningless kind. He will seek for depth in such pursuits because the desire for sexual experiences will be great. Sometimes the native will be too impulsive in getting into relationships and then regretting his actions. The native may at first be very interested in a new love affair, only for it to end soon. As the disenchantment sets in, he might be possessive, obsessive, and jealous in relationships. So he seeks depths in relationships, but he doesn't really see the person for who he is. So though he seeks depths in intimate relationships, he just is mistaken about the people that he selects. He might be emotionally affected by picking up on others' feelings. He may have a natural understanding of how to use occult energy and may sometimes use it for evil. He's likely to have many psychic abilities and might be able to use the energy of others, which of course should not be done. Sometimes the native may gain energy through the act of sex, thus abusing the partner, as the partner is left without much energy. The native may be reluctant to see this truth and might blame the other party for relationships going wrong. If the moon is located in Libra, Pisces, or Cancer, there is a danger of the native being abused energy-wise also. So though he may use others energy-wise, he also might be abused himself, especially if his moon is located in Libra, Pisces, or Cancer. He might receive precognitive dreams, and this, as well as many psychic abilities, comes from the mother side of ancestors. This placement could also mean that the native's mother died or left home early, or it can mean the death of a mother figure or a woman who was very important to the native. It's possible to receive some inheritance from someone who is female. Also, this placement shows that the native's husband or wife will have average fluctuating wealth. So this is the end of the video. Thank you for watching and have a lovely day.